I don't know why I'm always getting killed.
I thought we do that on our exit.
Usually it is exit. It's definitely exit.
Coming in guns a-blazing. Much love and respect, everybody. Greetings, YouTube world.
What's up, YouTube?
What's up, what's up, what's up?
It's PK and Chris and Slick just talking some crazy shit. We were going to go off on our own. Decided to make sure we get this on the air.
Slick, beautiful background you got there. And it looks like you're going to bless us with a beautiful sunset too.
Yeah, man.
Right in the background there.
Yeah, I think I got
what's up.
Got about an hour and a half of sunlight left. I'm going to get the most out of it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I have just a void behind me, so I can't really compete.
I have sticks. So like, you know how, some ladies grow up to be crazy cat ladies and they collect cats. Well, I collect sticks. So
I like
they're
those.
easy to take care of. So it's all right. Don't worry.
That's right. That's the sign of a good peripatetic. It's a collection of walking sticks.
I wish I knew what that word meant. It's probably funnier.
It's the walking philosophers or the
peripatetic. Okay, yeah. Do know that one.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris, you asked me about the Elon thing.
Oh yeah.
Elon and the chump thing. Here, I'm gonna send a big love to everybody. Thanks for joining us, y'all. Stacy Sunshine, Rachel Wahlberg. Let's see. Chapacha and Cha-Cha. And our boy D Zerda in the house. Greetings, everybody. Greetings.
Hello.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure. Hey, there we go. Do you make your sticks, PK?
Do I make them? Yeah, I make them as in like I stain and kind of like, see, I think a good walking stick is there's a couple of things that go into a good walking stick. One is the weight needs to be evenly distributed, and when that, but it's also, it should be heavier on the top,
Sort of like
so
a
that
throwing knife.
When I was a novice, I was like, I would be like, oh, the walking, and I try to do it the opposite way, and then you're picking up and lugging, it's way harder. So you want your heavier on the top. That's the way to go. Also, you want to be able to fuck something up with it too, because what's the point? I mean, yeah, walking sticks great, but like, if that bobcat comes at you or something, turn around, just whack it. So I think that is also important in a good walking stick, is be able to thump something on the head if you need to. So I make the stick as for this one, I actually stained and then cut some or like, sharpen little points. So this one's kind of more like deadly and fun.
It's like your Negan walking stick. It might as well be a bat with a nail sticking out of it.
But my favorite, this one I was messing with. Let me show y'all this one. My favorite walking stick though, I got from the Tennessee mountains. I was in Gatlinburg, went hiking way in the mountains, and this there's birch everywhere there. And so birch is pretty soft wood. Normally, like that people sell, like you could buy birch floor, which you really don't want to do, or a pine floor, which you don't want to do because they ding easily.
Yeah.
But anyway, my favorite stick, which I don't have here, is the birch walking stick, and it's a little bit harder than normal because it was a dead tree that was set there, and I feel like it got wet and dried so many times that it basically like hardened the wood. And so I broke off a branch, and it was like just the right little knot, and I broke it off perfectly on the knot that it like made the perfect walking stick right where it bent, right where my hand should. And like, dude, it's
Yeah.
all like balanced perfectly. And I didn't like do anything to that. I didn't even have to cut the bottom off or nothing. It was just perfect. So that's
Yeah.
always cool when that happens. Now this one is like a little
Oh,
like a little
damn.
javelin.
Wow.
But it's not weighed right, because when I throw it, it goes like, it just goes like that, and it fucks up. So I need to like weight the front a little bit, if I cared
Wow,
enough to, but I
buddy.
don't. So yeah, it's just a fun little hobby. I like I'm a nerd for going on hikes, and I get excited when we see new tree or big trees that I'm like, oh, that's a nice tree. And then I'm one to all these sticks I didn't take off the living tree. They were all on the ground. And I'm
Okay.
not, no tree purist or whatever, but like I feel like you can it's fine to chop down trees for your wood or make furniture, for the house you live in or whatever. But I just don't think to when I go out to find a walking stick, because there's plenty of wood on the ground.
Yeah.
That I think that's kind of my thinking about it. There's plenty of shit on the ground, so it's like, why do I need to pick it up? Are they TSA approved? That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't. I've never tried to take my birch walking staff into TSA or something. I almost took it to that music festival that I went to in Montgomery, and I wondered if they would let me in with it, because after all, it is just a walking cane. But it, like I said, it's heavy. You could knock someone out with it pretty good. So I don't even know if they let me in security. So I left it. I didn't test it yet, but maybe I'll take it on a flight. That's a good question.
Big love, Kyle. I'm in your old backyard, buddy. Much love, Kyle. Tippecanoe Herbs. Tippecanoe is basically right over there from where I am right now. Much love, Kyle. Yeah, PK, my greatest walking stick I've ever had was I guess a 2-day affair. It was on the I believe it's called the Lost Beach Trail. I think that's what they call it in California, north of San Fran, a few miles north is the Lost Beach Trail, and it's a hiking trail that can be as long as 2 days. I think you could stay on it for even longer than that, but I took the southern route. You go up Highway 1 in California, and you park way up on the north side, and you can there's plenty of camping and all. You can walk along the beach, and the whole entire beach is riddled with driftwood of epic proportions. It is
Ooh, beautiful.
huge and everywhere on the beach with this kind of this dark water, dark sandy water, and it looks like a wasteland. It's incredibly alien, and I kept. It's hard not to think that you're walking amongst dinosaur bones, because all of this driftwood is sun blasted and stripped. And so all of these fallen trees everywhere, they're white, and they just look like a beach of dinosaur bones.
Are some still in the ground though?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing too. There's some places like that in Charleston.
Yeah.
Where
My bad.
the trees are still buried in there. It's basically like driftwood that is still a freaking tree, but has all the symptoms of a driftwood. It's not alive, but looks so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started from up north, and I was hiking with a friend of mine, and we found right away this amazing Gandalf-esque walking stick with this huge root bulb, and the root bulb kind of looked like a horse's skull or maybe an elk's skull because it was pointed, and embedded into the root bulb was a big ass black stone. And it was a river stone. So it was already like rounded out and soft, but the roots were gripping this stone.
Shut up, dude. You
Dude,
like literally found a freaking wizard staff.
I found this Gandalf wizard staff with a river stone embedded. It was so amazing. And so I took that thing with me for this 2-day hike. But then when we got to the exit, you know, to the off trail, I was like kind of contemplating, like, do I really want to bring this artifact with me? Is it worth it with all my camping gear and everything? Because we have to, whatever. It's not really that long of a drive, you know, it's much longer to walk. But I just kind of thought about it at the trailhead, and I was like, you know what? This thing is so ideal. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to lean it up on like the trailhead sign that gives people the map and shows them where they need to go. I'm just going to lean it up on the trailhead sign for the next person to pick it up. And then I'm going to allow myself to believe that this walking stick will be used by the next person going the other direction and left at that trailhead and then brought back down by a third person. And maybe this walking stick will have the,
that's too cool.
Maybe there's enough altruism in humanity to keep the stick designated for the next user to pay it forward.
I love doing stuff like that though.
Yeah,
like little communal things that like, you know, don't mean much or aren't worth any like street value, you know, but like, oh, like I'll build paths. I'll go on a hike and be like, oh, it just like rained one day, kind of flooded out. I'll be the dude who builds a bridge to the other side. and the rest of you people who walk across my bridge, enjoy it. That's all.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Someone built it.
Dude, there was a huge beached whale right at the trailhead where we were getting off. I shouldn't say huge. It was my only beached whale, so of course it was huge. Might have been a teenager in whale years, but it was right at that point where it was about to explode. You know how they swell up, and then like one day, one of the mini birds pokes it, and it all the gases inside of the whale turns into like a little volcano.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was really gnarly, and it was rank. It smelled so bad.
I bet.
Oh, right. Look, unindoctrinated is here. Big love. What's happening?
Oh yeah, I like that. So do you have a go-to? Do you have a walking stick?
I have
a stick you like?
Well, I have bow stabs. I have 2 bow stabs. One is kind of they're not with me here. One is kind of light, real light, kind of featherweight, but they're tall. They're at least let me think. They're at least they're about 6 feet. And then I got a heavy bow staff that it's all engraved and carved with dragons fighting over a stone in the center of it. It's a beautiful masterpiece, but it's very hefty, very, very hefty.
Very cool.
Yeah, man.
So I was going to say, before we got into talking about sticks, y'all were talking about the Elon Trump thing. And I was just going to say that I'm not too up to speed on that, other than I know that, you know, they're fighting or falling out or whatever.
It's kind of I'm like pretty much probably where you are, PK. I saw 1 or 2 things about it, but I'm sure Gabe probably knows more about what's going on than either of us do. If you could fill us in, Gabriel.
Shit.
What makes you think that he knows more than us?
Right.
I don't know. I just have a feeling he might have seen a little bit more than me or you might have.
About freaking Trump Elon.
Yeah, you know, I think the best, I'm trying to think of like a mythological analog to what I'm seeing in the Trump thing. Or like,
Mars, Jupiter?
Yeah. I think I just finished the Andor series, and I think a great amount of what is happening right now is actually already in the cinema. And there's something weird about this. I got to say, like, usually when I see cinema, it has like a gestation period. Like when they serve it up to the masses for disclosure, they expect it to kind of mature in our imagination before the psyop is launched. But right now, there's something where like Andor is very prescient, and I think some of the revelation of what's happening is not years ahead. I think it's actually almost in real time.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to look to where the promulgation protocols to the Trump and the Elon thing, I think I would look to Andor, because the whole thing, it's like 80% cloak and dagger and behind the scenes operations and backdoor handshakes and deals and treachery. It's all cloak and dagger. There's almost no action. It's all just plots and
well, they gave us predictive programming with the black MAGA, white MAGA whole thing. Like, yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of a staged distraction. That was always supposed to happen eventually when they were done doing their thing together.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird because it seems like there's some UAP sort of stuff Elon's starting to get into, or being influenced by people online to start talking about. Like they're pushing him towards.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I guess he had a clearance, which would have given him access to see certain things which I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ, we know all this. It's so hard to take it seriously because of how fake it is, but considering Elon actually does maybe run a business that relies on electric vehicles to make money. Mm-hmm. If there was a technology that he found out without the government was holding back, I guess that would give him a reason as his character to then come forward and say, oh, there are all these things you're not being told about. And I think that's kind of part of what might be starting. I'm not really too sure if it's going to go anywhere, because these things don't seem to ever go anywhere.
And, something that really satisfies me is when they finally live into their name. Like, we've been calling them Elon Musk all this time. And I'm like, at what point is it's called like nominal determinism, that we actually live into our name in ways that kind of surprise ourselves. But on Hollywood, these names are completely contrived. A lot of these people's life is scripted into what they were, what they identify as. Well, his name is Alien Musk. You know what I mean? And even alien scum, a lot of people would say, which is a triple entendre, because he is not from America, so he's alien. And he's from South Africa, so it's actually literal and kind of poetic, and it's starting to make some interesting sense.
Gay. Ronan goes gay.
Very, 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 toxic masculinity for sure. Big love, Ronan. Yeah. What do you think of PK? What do you think about Elon and the? Are we going to civil war? Do you think brother on brother is?
I don't know, man. I look at it all like it's a reality TV show that has a loose script that these actors like improv.
It's wrestling,
right?
Yeah,
it's like WWF without the wrestling.
So it's as real as a freaking watching that reality TV show, Real World or something. It's like as real as that shit, where it's like a scripted, or like you could throw in freaking, little things to like spark it to make it go one way or the other, but then they act it out genuinely and authentically. And most people don't know that it's a script or a show.
Yeah,
most people are probably authentic. But
which
when
is
you
so
get
insane.
up there talking about them, I bet this thing is is it fake or is it real or contrived? A little bit of both. Mostly contrived would be mine. It's just hard to believe anything, this big.
Well, these are just the things. These type of things are just the things I think that can actually sway public opinion from the normies who think it's real. This is something that in the future could affect who has public support in the next 3-4 years if Elon decides to then start saying he's backing a different party than the people who think it's real are gonna, and like Elon, are gonna follow Elon.
That's what I like to do, is I like to look at the show and be like, all right, but why?
Yeah.
Why are they doing this?
Exactly.
And I don't like giving them too much credit, because I do think sometimes, shit fucking happens that they don't like. I don't think that there is this they have like, this all like almost like godlike power. I don't think it goes that far. I think that gives them way too much credit. But I do like to try and figure out like a puzzle, like what's the spin on this? What is this about? And the whole thing with the stuff coming out of Trump, he's like, oh, Trump was on the Epstein list, like he had some tweet like that. Well, apparently, before it all got released, it had already been released. Apparently, when Donald Trump released it, they redacted his name or some shit from the flight log. But see, even all this like nuance I'm getting into is so fucking stupid, because the whole thing
yeah, I agree. I want to say, as much as I love to think that something is actually that is not anticipated or contrived, my pattern recognition always lets me down because we just moved into Gemini. We just moved into the twins, into the brothers. And so like the inevitability of germophobia and the brother against brother, Castor and Pollux, it does kind of adhere to the biggest script that there is. But again, like, is that because it is being pulled by priest class puppet strings, or is that just the way that the system we're in compels energies to manifest?
Yep, I struggle with that too. I bet it's a little
both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're in a mixed reality, man.
Yeah, buddy. Yep. So true. Yeah, that's it. That's actually kind of true. It's like it's true for your left brain and for your right brain. I dig it. I think I showed you guys the Cash Patel graphic with him and Bongino combing the desert from Spaceballs. Did I show you guys that graphic yet?
I saw it, I think, on
Telly.
On Telly. And he was just Cash, I think it was just on Rogan today.
No shit.
Today, yeah, I saw that I didn't watch it, but I just saw on my feed.
Interesting. Very
Which is great timing for him.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here, I'm going to do a little walk through the slick
Cash
gallery.
Patel was swatted yesterday. So, for kids in the back, who's Cash Patel?
Head of the FBI.
Is that who you guys were just talking about when you said he was on Rogan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So who's that?
Is he head of the FBI or no?
Something like that. Don Bongino. Don Bongino, who sounds like who's the guy from Miami Vice? Don Johnson. Sounds a lot like Don Johnson. Who Don Johnson was synchro connected to old Chumpster. I've seen people do specials on that Chump and Don Johnson are the same.
This guy. Okay.
You see him? He's got the crazy eyes.
Cash Patel is what is he?
Director of FBI.
Yeah, director of FBI. There you go. I was not wrong. I can't believe that.
I see. Yeah.
Nice.
I saw this guy when Trump got elected.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's interesting too. Him and Bongino came out saying that the Epstein files were there's nothing there. He killed himself. Or well, not the files. Actually, this would have been more of like just his death. He just killed him. He killed himself. Nothing shady about it at all. And then right after they do that, now Musk is going the Epstein list. Trump. That's why Trump is doing this BBB bill.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you guys, the Andor plot is heavy-handed. It's super heavy-handed. One of the female leaders of the empire, she's like I don't know. She's on some evil counsel for the Empire. She's leading investigations. She looks just like Ellen DeGeneres. She looks just the whole movie. She's constantly Ellen DeGeneres, and her character degenerates over the arc of 2 seasons. It's really heavy-handed. But here, I'm going to do a little walk through the gallery. I want to share some of my Bongino Patel graphics I put together. Let's see. Boom.
Yeah,
Here we
that
go.
was their last ride. It's collective ritual.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. They're just showcasing their priest craft. But yeah. So
Bongino does not look happy to be part of this. He looks like he got roped into this all and can't get out of it at this point. He's screwed.
Totally. So Comey, right? We got Comey is posting a picture of this 8647 found in the beach sand while the Puffy Combs trial is at hand. And I don't know if you guys remember in Spaceballs, but they sent the stormtroopers to comb the beach, to comb the desert for evidence. And this is the famous line where the one dude is like, "Man, we ain't found shit." And it was hilarious. That joke, that scene was so funny from the 80s. But in a strange way, I think they're just unpacking culture tropes and fulfilling the prejudice of our discernment from the 80s. Wasn't Spaceballs in the 80s? Might have been the 90s. But, and then I threw in here, PK, remember you asked me about into R switches?
Oh, yeah. I wasn't going to bring it up again. It seemed like,
I found one very fun one.
What you got?
You can be accused of being a white national extremist if you are too much of a quite rational individual. And so it's not just that they rhyme. It really is kind of pivoting on the N to the R switch.
Yeah.
And there is something about, there's just something about, your nationality is, it's what you're protective of. It's like kind of your motherland. It's the feet. It's the earth underneath your feet. It's what you count on for common law. But also what is commonplace, what is common sense is all rational. And so common law is in your national, hopefully we assume, sometimes it's not always the case, but we're supposed to assume that your common law will uphold your rights, but also in the same vein, what is common sense is considered rational. So yeah, and then I just love pointing out again and again and again that the Greek word for witness, the Greek word for witness is martyr. And isn't it so profound that Epstein, what might be in martyr protection program, and that little possibility that he didn't really kill himself, and maybe he's whatever on the notorious BIG Elvis Presley Celebrity Island Retreat Center is just going to forever ring into the historical possibilities of what the fuck happened to Jeffrey Epstein. So yeah, he is a witness, and in light, he is a martyr.
He is a scapegoat.
Yeah, in the creepiest light. It's kind of parallel. It's not the same, but it is parallel.
It's interesting. I'm looking here about so apparently this whole thing where Cash was swatted, that comes out on Rogan, our Or apparently, as you call it, the podcast that is a partial disclosure from the CIA at this point.
Yeah.
So basically, Cash says that on Rogan, and I don't know if that was even reported on prior to that. And then they say they learn about the tweets Musk is doing live, and I'm just reading headlines here and getting the little summary underneath, and basically said that Trump should stop tweeting, or someone should take his cell phone away for his own mental health during it. Then they refused to talk much more about it, it seems.
Oh, wow.
But that's interesting how they were like, he should get his phone taken away from him for his own mental health.
Wow.
Oh, and apparently during the conversation, they said, Cash said there was a breakthrough in the Fauci investigation. But again, caution, the results may not be as expected, just like the Epstein results.
Oh, my goodness. Man, it trips me out that Rogan's studio is basically a Thoth deck lust card. That is the creepiest thing. That is so creepy. Hold on, I got a plane coming over. I'm going to mute.
While you mute, let's look at this. So I had to, last time we talked about, or maybe a couple of times ago, we talked about some, like, I wanted to look at some bill and read it for myself or whatever. Well, everyone's been going on about this whole thing of like, oh, in this bill, they're trying to write in there that for 10 years the states can't impede the implementation of this AI or whatever, right?
Oh, I was gonna ask, do you read it? So does it say that does it actually say that, or does it say they have to come to like a congressional thing
while
before
you guys
that
were
happens?
talking, I just pulled it up, and I don't know if you could see here, but y'all can zoom in if you want. I'm at the congress.gov site on the big, what they call it, the one big beautiful bill act.
OBBBA, right?
Yep. So
that's obey. It spells obey.
Yeah, remember we said this last time.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Obey one
Here.
can obey. Obey one
Here,
can
I'll
obey.
put it. I'm gonna put this in the chat here.
Wow.
All right, there you go. There's
if you
the bill.
strike me down, Vader, I will become more powerful than you could ever imagine.
Let's read this. I think this is worth our time here, because I've heard so many people say it, but I've never heard anyone read it before. So this right here, this word moratorium, it basically means, well, isn't that a little handy here that I wonder how much this is like. Anyway, it says a temporary probation of an activity. So sure, Latin. In general, except provided in this paragraph, no state or political subdivision, therefore, may enforce during the 10-year period beginning on the date of the enactment of this act any law or regulation of that state or political subdivision, therefore, limiting, restricting, or otherwise regulating artificial intelligence models, AI systems, or automated decision systems entered into interstate commerce. And then, rule construction, blah, blah, blah. It's like one of the points of this, the primary purpose of this effect is to remove legal impediments to or facilitate the deployment or operation of AI models. So, okay, guys, literally, yes, it says it in here. Now, that's just wild to me. That it's so wild to me how this is the same as like a preemptive pardon. How can you say like you can't regulate us when you don't even know what you're gonna like put in? This is like preemptively pardoning people for shit that they haven't even done yet.
You know what? It's like the anode to pre-crime. It's like,
yeah.
Well, they're
it's like pre-crime. Yeah, be like,
converted.
y'all can't regulate, but I can't like tell you what you can't regulate because I don't even know yet. But just sweeping across the board, it's just, this is so bizarre. But yeah, it
really
literally says it here.
The weird thing is like
10-year period.
but now like when we say now because just because it's AI though, this is the problem. If this was anything else, we'd be like, oh great. We don't want regulation. We want less regulation. We want less laws. We're regulated. They regulate everything that we do. But this is specifically something that we have no control over. And that's the problem, right?
No. Okay. I see. I kind of see the point you're trying to make here, but it's not that like the fact that, okay, the government does serve a purpose, right? To regulate some
this is
like,
one of the things that should be regulating is the point that I'm saying.
Yeah, and something like this, or at least let's say that it shouldn't like sweepingly not be regulated, or but you know they're like only the feds can regulate it. Like
it's almost like saying we're not going to regulate the mRNA requirements or shots for 10 years, and we're just going to let the pharmaceutical company do whatever they want to the public.
Yeah, so it's real. It's real.
Yeah, you know, I had a just an interesting kind of thought today about the X of Deus Ex Machina, right? That I think that culturally, many cultures are addicted to the conclusion of the drama being something unexpected, unreasonable, descending from the heavens to resolve the plot. And in a lot of ways, that I think that the Deus Ex Machina is the X of, you know, the Musk logo, but also this bill has a 10-year, what do they call it? Moratorium. It has the X.
Yep.
It has an X year moratorium. And I just want to make it.
You're right. It's an X year. Oh my God. It's
Right.
X.
It's X. It's X years long. And just today, my ears perked up around the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and the part where Yahweh is bargaining with Lot. I think it's Lot, about if you can find 40 men in the city who are worthy, then I won't smote the whole city. He's like, hold on, I don't think I can do 40. What do you say about 30? And he's like, all right, I'll do 30. He's like, you know what? I got to tell you, I don't think I'm going to find 30. Can we do 10? And he's like, all right, I'll do it for 10. It's so this kind of wrestling with God over the terms of the agreement. Again, they settle on the 10. And that is the resolution. That solves everything.
Well, they still can't find 10.
And then they start. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So I just thought about that today, about the Deus Ex Machina, because it's the oldest trope there is. And I think it's so old that there's something latent in us that we're expected to receive that, that meaningful symbol. And, you know, the machine that descends being an X, it makes sense because like, whatever the machine is, it's dropped down on a crane, and so even the wheel is kind of a symbol of this. The greatest thing since the wheel. We've been worshiping this Deus Ex Machina for that long.
Well, and it's interesting too that so Musk speaks out against the bill that really he's probably going to want to go through because he's just going to not want regulation on his AI systems for 10 years. That's great for him. So he positions himself as a good guy against the bill, and then with his other hand, he's actually really supporting the bill because that helps him out with his whole
I think it's
data
just
collection.
It's just so silly that how we've let politics come to this, and that it's like, oh, we got to wrap this all up on one big bill that includes a million fucking things and then say if we're for it or against it, when really no one's even read it and knows what the fuck it's about and knows like, it's just like, what has it come to? And then the conversations, we are having, and that's happening all over the internet is about like, oh, is it a good bill? Is it a bad bill? Well, I don't know. I know I know it's way longer than I care to fucking read, and
Yeah.
I know that it's like but I know that it's about tons of things.
That's the thing.
So
The problem is
be
it's
like,
so
yeah,
long
I'm
too.
all
There
for
could
it.
be freaking
It's a
things in there
ridiculous thing.
that we don't even know about that are like, well, then if you if a state wants to claim that they do want to make a regulation on AI, they have to then address Congress and ask them for permission to do so. There could be things like all these provisions in there for all these things. So we don't even know how much of it is going to go into effect right away. How much of it is a case, because how many pages? Over 1,000. And they never give us like a summary of it. That's actually a summary of everything.
Yeah. It makes me think of, I heard the sentiment recently that
Do we need
bureaucracy.
AI to give us a summary?
I tried to, when we were on the last show, I actually tried to ask Grok to summarize it. He acted like he couldn't find it. I was like,
whoa.
motherfucker, here's the link.
Wow.
And he barely could summarize it.
Wow.
I can't believe I said he. Kill me now.
So
I mean,
I really love the sentiment that bureaucracy is intrinsically anti-human.
Yeah.
And even more so, it's anti-intellectual. And so them pushing a bill that's impossible to read all of it and even grasp or grok the significance of it all.
Well, your that card you had with what is it, the chariot card, maybe that one that you had you equivalated it to, what's her name, the blonde woman from Florida, the Congresswoman Mary what's her name,
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Taylor Greene. So she had said she didn't see that part of the bill, which I thought immediately of, like how the sort of binoculars to her in that card. And
oh wow, yeah, almost owl too. Kind of looks like an owl.
So her eyes apparently were closed to that mystery.
What's that, PK?
We should do some bibliomancy on this bill.
Oh,
just go to a random spot.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
Wow, that's so interesting you said that. I had a mega bibliomantic moment this week. That's pretty cool you said that.
Did you?
Yeah. It was magic. Okay, I'll tell the story. I'll tell the story. So yeah, this the place I'm at is my Lake Jouary, my father's property here, and he and I were having a really lovely day, bonding, talking about all the things, talking about his father having passed away, maybe almost 15 years ago, maybe longer, and I was telling my father, very excited that I have discovered in Plato's Republic at least 4 times that they are describing the ultimate foundation for all education should be based on what they describe as tactical geometry and music. And when they describe tactical geometry, it's like the way they describe it is almost so in depth that you don't recognize what you're hearing. You know, they're into the details and they're talking about it as though it has no name or as though it's a brand new concept. So it
almost is that, or do you think it might be architecture?
Well,
because I know John D said that the most important science actually was not math, it was architecture.
Well, I think architecture comes from when you merge the tactical geometry and music, because the architecture will have resonant sound.
Yes.
If you bring these two together, right? But as they're describing it, they actually name the marriage of tactical geometry and music. They call it the place where the grass will grow back. That's the long translation of what they call it. But that phrase is the exact translation of the word Capetta. Capetta is translated as the place where the grass will grow back. And if you go to different Capetta schools, they'll tell you different reasons why it has that name. But in Plato's Republic, that's what they call tactical geometry and music fused together to build out all other education. And so I'm kind of blown away. I'm telling my dad about this, that that how much it strokes my martial ego to find out that Capetta is hiding in Plato's Republic, which puts most people to sleep. And so my dad was like, you'd be surprised at my book collection. And he takes me back in his bedroom, and he's got one whole wall of books that he's collected for all of the years. And he's like, you probably wouldn't guess some of the books I got here, Gabe. And he's like pulling off some like far out stuff. But he says, as he's going through, he says, when my father died, he said to me, if you want to find me, I will be in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And and he's like, isn't that wild? Let's see if we can find Grandpa in here. And he starts looking through his bookshelf. He's trying to find his copy from his dad of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And he's pulling this book and that book and this book and that book. And he says, I've read a lot of philosophy. I've read some philosophy. And he pulls Jean-Paul Sartre's On Existentialism off the shelf. And he says, see, I read this, and he hands it to me, and my eyes are falling out of my head because my dad does not know this. My dad does not know this, but Jean-Paul Sartre went to Brazil, and he met my Mestre's Mestre way back in 61. He went to study Capetta with my master's master, and my dad is telling me, I've studied some philosophy, and he gives me Jean-Paul Sartre on existentialism, and I'm freaking out because he doesn't know that part. And this is the book that comes off the shelf and goes in my hand, and I flip through it, and sure enough, on the page on bad faith, which is a very important topic in terms of my interest in Jean-Paul Sartre, in that page is a picture of me and my family. There's a picture of me and my family from when I was a young, strapping, handsome stud. Look at that peachy face.
Oh my God.
And our dog, and it's in the page on bad faith. And I'm really tripping out, guys. I'm really tripping out because this is very correspondent to the moment in the Matrix when Neo opens a false book for the hackers are at his door with the white rabbit tattoo, and he goes and he puts the money in the page that he opens up to is on nihilism. That's the chapter in Baudrillard's book is on nihilism. And in this book, it's on bad faith. And I'm like, wow, this is trippy. And look, the cover has even got like Matrix. It's got Matrix wave patterns on it. It was so cool. It was so cool. And so so I had to explain to my dad. I was like, listen, okay, hold on. You got to realize what you just did to me. And so I tell him about Jean-Paul Sartre, and I'm going to make an image of Jean-Paul Sartre and my grandfather and put them side by side because it's a little weird. It's a little weird. They're not the same. Jean-Paul Sartre's got crazy eyes, but my grandpa kind of had crazy eyes, and I really want to see what they look like side by side. So as I walk away with this book, my dad actually says, that is one heck of a coincidence. I mean, that's a really intense coincidence. And I turned back and I said, you should maybe take your coincidences a little more serious, Dad.
So, and yeah, that too, like the timing of that was right after y'all had the whole Plato discussion.
We're right on the cusp of it. And so,
yeah, man, that's wild.
It is so cool. So right now he's actually traveling down south with some of the family. And one of the friends of the family is a wrestling instructor. And his son, who is now 14, is in wrestling at the school that he's instructing. And his son is like a beefcake. His shoulders have come in, and his son is a real roughneck. And his dad is kind of made a warrior out of this young boy. And so I've made my father promise to explain to our family friend that Plato was a wrestler, and that was Plato's wrestling name. And hopefully my buddy will get into some of the Republic eventually when he has time. Hold on, I'm gonna let my dog in. I'll be right back.
So there's something interesting that Gabe was just when he brought up that the definition of the word he was just mentioning, and he said it was the growing back of the grass.
Oh,
that what you're
I
saying?
was gonna ask. Yeah, dude,
Grass.
thanks for bringing that back up.
Grass is interesting in there, and I was just looking up.
Do you have that
other-
Greek word?
I switched the Greek over into a bunch of different languages and came
What's
back
that
with.
Greek word though.
Here, let me go back really fast and see. The Greek was English to, because it actually winds up meaning lawn in English, so it's a little bit different. But let me go back to the Greek.
Yeah, do
God,
you remember what the Greek word is?
it's so, I don't know how the hell I'm going to say this, but let me put it in another
the
tab.
place-
Grass green.
I'll share it with you. The word for grass in the private.
Is
Yeah.
that's what the word is that Gabe was talking about in Plato?
Well, that's the Greek word for grass. I don't know if that's the same word used in Plato that I
Yeah.
just put in the private.
In Portuguese, I think capim is what they would say the word for grass. We have a. Do you guys know what the coffee grinder move is? I'm going to do a coffee grinder on the camera. You guys are about to learn some capoeira right now.
Well, it's interesting because when I start moving into different languages,
Do it, Gabe.
one
do
of
it.
one of the words that comes up is gazon. I think that's in the Dutch. And
Gazon.
gazon is actually a turf that's put over a wall. That's a military wall, which is like very.
Oh, it sounds
Very
like
strange.
like garrison. Sounds like a garrison. All right, here I go.
Oh yeah, like he's about to break dance.
There we go.
Did that come through?
Oh yeah.
Sick, bro.
So that's called the coffee grinder in the breakdance circles, but we call it cutting the grass.
Love it. That was smooth too, man.
Nice.
Looks smooth.
Didn't even stretch.
So see, I'm wondering if grass actually in this case would mean the place where the field grows back. Because that would make a lot more sense to me than where the grass grows back.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, there
like-
was. So Gabe, what I would have done right with you. Well, do you usually read your Plato? You probably read your Plato in a book, right?
in English.
Right. So it's not easy. See, whenever I read it, I'm on the website where I can easily switch over to Greek and compare. But what I would have done right away there, that word, it's so much harder though for you because well, if you're just reading an English book to track that down.
Yeah.
But yeah, try and try and remember. You can even send me the 401BC whatever, and I'll track that shit down.
Dude,
Yeah.
yes, let's do that. I'll get the address, the
Yeah, the
Platonic address.
The verse. I need the chapter and verse
That's right.
of the
The
Bible of
CV.
Plato.
The CV. Yeah, man. So I got a few more graphics, but let's see.
All right, let's hold on. Between graphics, we'll do a bibliomancy of this bill.
Okay.
One
Yeah.
I got in this section here, we got the authorization to mine federal minerals. In general, all federal coal reserves, at least under federal coal lease, blah blah blah, located blah blah, to be mined in accordance with the Bull Mountains mining plan modifications. Bull Mountains mining plan means federal coal lease. So something to do with coal and mining coal from federal land, I think, and whatever Bull Mountain is. Okay. That was fun.
Give us another one.
Yeah.
All right. I'll go to another random. Just going to random. All right. Add stage here. So let's go up to the section because this is just about funds. So let's see what they're talking about. Asylum fee. Yeah. I think I went to maybe a boring one. But in addition to any other fee authorized by law, the Secretary of Homeland Security or the Attorney General, as applicable, shall impose a fee in the amount specified in this section for a fiscal year on each alien who files an application for asylum. So, I guess to apply for asylum, there must be a fee.
Wow.
That's what it reads like to me.
What was it saying about art down there a little lower?
I don't know if there is now or what, huh?
Oh, never mind. I was reading something incorrectly.
Yeah, so I did see some stuff when I was doing it earlier too. All right, let's do one more because that one was boring. Let's go up. All right. No.
The word is
prohibiting federal Medicaid and CHIP funding for general transition procedures. Okay.
There we go.
Medicaid, blah blah, paragraph inserting semicolon. Hold on, let's get somewhere. With respect to any amount expended for specified general gender transition procedures, furnished, enroll in the state plan or waiver, flush. See all this stuff. Okay, CHIP. Like all this stuff is not even like readable.
Wait, so it's saying in general, for purposes of section, the term gender transition means the respect to individual and the following when performed for the purpose of intentionally changing the body. This is including disrupting the body's development to no longer correspond to the individual's sex. So performing these surgeries, including castration, sterilization. I don't know what some of those are in between, but I'm assuming they're taking out.
I don't know what that is.
Dude, clitoroplasty.
Right here,
taking off the scrotum.
Oh, scrotumplasty.
Or developing a scrotum.
Dude, they have clitoroplasty. That's amazing.
A clitoroplasty.
Oh my gosh. Pythagoras would totally disapprove. he hates beans.
Now, wait, so this is saying
reconstruction of the fixed part of the urethra with or without a medioplasty or phalloplasty. I see. So basically it's like saying, you can't do all that, or we're not funding for that.
Yeah, which rightfully so.
CHIP funding or whatever. So they're not funding for that BS. Any placement, a chest, no implants. You know, I heard it was funny is like, there's no such thing as chicks with a dick. There's no such thing as a chick with a dick. It's a man with tits. I thought that was funny. Isn't that good?
Wow.
It was good.
That's good. That's got a shelf life on it.
That's what I was like, oh, I gotta remember that one. I gotta remember that one.
That'll come in handy someday.
Yeah. Sometime. All right. So
wow. That was fun. Yeah.
Can you put the link one more time to the text? I lost it. I can't find it. For some reason on StreamYard, I don't even want to risk signing in right now because of...
Oh, okay. I put
Wait, I got it. I found it. You're good. I was like looking back and I couldn't find it.
I put it in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, I got it now. I got it.
Unlike you, I know that there's 40 people watching, so I share this stuff with everyone.
Well, no, I can't sign it. I can't sign into the YouTube chat on StreamYard because every time I've been doing that lately, it's been no bueno. And I was already late, so I don't want to even attempt it right now.
Yeah. Don't mess up your connection.
So here, I got a few more graphics to fly through. This is one of these is an old convo that Chris and I had about the Brocken Spectre. You remember that, Chris?
Was this the Banshee type of figure? Or was it a woman, female entity in Ireland?
Nope. This one is the Brocken Mountain in Germany.
Oh! I know what you're saying. This is when I was flipping over the NBC peacock sort of thing and showed
Yes.
how it was like a torch
You
with
got
the
it.
rainbow coming out of it. Yeah.
Totally. You got it. Yes. So I believe it was a 1936 Olympics. I might be off just slightly, but it was in Germany. It was the first Olympics broadcast worldwide for the first time on television. And the broadcasting tower was placed at a very, very synchro-significant location on Brocken Mountain, where Carl Jung, the grandfather of collective consciousness, his uncle was said, his Masonic uncle was said to participate in the flight of the witches. And this location where on a certain night, on a regular cycle, all of the mystics will meet in a communion in psychic space up at the top of the mountain. And that is the very same mountain that the first Olympics was ever broadcast from, that tower. And if you research the tower in the broadcasting station, it actually switched hands through the wars, where, like, the Germans had it, but then the French took over and then somebody else took over. So it's a strategic spot. But from the top of that mountain, and this is also possible on other mountains in Europe, but Brocken is one of the most popular, well-known. And from the top of that location, there's a kind of a enigma of the light that your shadow, when it casts down, when the sun is at a certain angle, your shadow will cast down onto the valley below, and your shadow is magnified exponentially. So it looks like a giant figure, kind of scaring the people. But not only that, the shadow that is cast has a rainbow aura around it. And so I've included Carl Jung's dream, his poem called Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. Oh, it's in his writing, Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, is this poem here. So yeah, I wanted to share this about the Brocken Spectre, because I think this also is kind of there's a little bit of Plato's cave, Plato's allegory of the cave also. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. This idea is something that I constantly keep coming back to, but I think the reason it's very important is because it's a first. It's an initiation to the world. It's a worldwide initiation. But then in Fantasia, they depicted the Brocken Spectre, the monster on Brocken Mountain, is in the Fantasia MICKEYMOUSE Club, the Military Industrial Complex KEY Club. And this one is just a collage of all of my Enneagram information kind of crammed into one spot. This is up top is the Enneagram of the endocrine system. And then down on the right is all of the vices in their Latin derivatives. This is the old language for wrath, used to be called irum. Pride was once called superbia. Isn't that an interesting word? Sounds a lot like suburbia.
I like that.
Yeah, very interesting how some of these words pan out. And then on the bottom left is all of the remedial virtues are in blue, that are the happy medium, the balance between excess and lack in the spectrum of the vices. So yeah, that's the kind of the answers. You could think of those as the magic spell to dispel the vicious demonic drives. And then this is one I made over the last week since we got together. I've been thinking a lot about Socrates' name. I really do. I think he's there's a lot more than meets the eye with Socrates. I'll just say that. And I heard somebody speaking on the standard of care. In tort law, this is the degree of caution that a reasonable person should exercise in a given situation so as to avoid causing injury. I just want to mention the reasonable person is, I think, the product of social engineering that is altered by the Overton window. And so when they say reasonable person, we have to consider that what was reasonable when I was young is not what is reasonable today. And so when I see reasonable person, I instantly think of the Overton window and adjusting what is acceptable socially. But it's also when they did the 6-foot social distance on everybody, they were enforcing a standard of care. They were making a 6-foot barrier between you and anybody else, so that you can show consideration. And now that phrase, it goes unrecognized. But to show consideration in law is to actually pay somebody. And so you're paying attention to the 6 feet social distance, and you're adhering to a new standard of care. And of course, I got to point out that the standard was 6 feet. 6 foot is memento mori. It's supposed to remind you that you're going to die. And that's why it had to be 6 feet as a new standard of care, a new measure. And then I looked up rates, like RATES, right? So if I go Socrates, SOC, SOC, standard of care, rates. Have you guys ever heard that the word rates actually means to berate, to express reproof? Have you guys ever heard that before?
No, go on.
It's the weirdest definition. I did not expect to see.
Are you talking like an old English or whatever pre-1800 definition?
No, this was right at the top of this is like just at the top of the DuckDuckGo search definition of RATES. And it says it's the intransitive verb, it's the plural form of rate, and it means to berate or to express reproof. And then as a noun, it means a quantity measured with respect to another measured quantity. And that's what I think most people think of right away. And I just want to mention how much that makes me think of how your placenta is put on, on the stock exchange. And then they measure how much the rate of taxes they expect in your lifetime. You know what I mean? Out of your life expectancy. There is something going on with the rates as it relates to your state issued ID. So then I was just kind of looking at Socrates, stock rates, the stock rates. I'm like, wait. Socrates was a Stoic. Is his name really on the most subconscious of all levels that nobody would think of unless you were slick like me? Is he are stock rates Stoic reproofs? Are they Stoic almost like punishment? It's like punishment that they're cracking the whip when they give us these stock rates. They're kind of doing a carrot and a stick, I think, with people.
I had a schizophrenic anagram.
All right, let's hear it.
Before you move on, I wanted to mention, I don't know if this changes anything, but originally the distance apart was supposed to be actually 10 feet, and they changed it.
Whoa. 120.
So there's your X again though too. So I just figured that was worth mentioning.
Nice. You know what? So X is 24th letter reduces to a 6. So it represents a 10, but it's the 24th letter. It reduces to the 6. So it's kind of a, yeah.
And I believe wasn't in Europe, wasn't it 3 meters? Or am I incorrect there? Because that would be almost 10 feet.
Interesting. Yeah. Yep. Totally. What were you thinking, PK?
Xenophon Ficino.
Yeah, bro.
It totally works.
Yeah.
It totally works. If the problem though is that the all right, so if it's Xenophon and it's an X, if the X is really he, like Cairo, hero,
Yeah.
then that has a k sound, and the fawn, it's totally there.
It's right there.
Xenophon, you can enneagram. Kinophon, you can enneagram to Facino.
That's so cool. Okay.
It is so there.
Dude, you blew my mind with that. Like,
so there.
That is so good. So I just want to mention how, like, Ficino's name kind of means little face, but it also, little faces is how they described money. There's the countenance of the king or the emperor is the little face on the coinage. And I wonder about Xenophon. I wonder if there's ever been any coinage with Xenophon. I don't know, but we do know that Xenophon gave us the Cyrusography, the biography of King Cyrus, and we definitely could find some Cyrus on some coins, including the half shekel with Donald Trump right now. They made a half shekel with Cyrus in the background, Trump in the front. But then I just want to mention, I don't think Trump is really Cyrus. I think there's a misdirect. I think Cyrus is King Charles, because the modern day derivative of the word Cyrus is the word Charles. And so while everybody's looking for Trump to fulfill this prophecy of Xenophon, I think Charles has already fulfilled it.
Mm-hmm. And let's fill everyone into why that Xenophon and Ficino can be a fun enneagram is because, well, Xenophon, they say, like, Socrates was his taught Xenophon. Okay, so Xenophon's like a disciple of Socrates way back in the day. And Plato too, right? Either, I don't know, is it said that Socrates and Plato like lived at the same time?
Just barely. So Plato's older brother Crito was more of a peer to Socrates.
Okay.
And so Plato was kind of like
a little younger, right?
Little young bro. Yep.
And so, and anyway, and then why that's a kind of a funny anagram with Ficino is because Ficino is credited to translating most of, if not all of, Plato's works into Latin. And so the funny thing is basically like, well, did he maybe write them or add or, take away whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was all Timaeus, Plato's Timaeus before Ficino, and Ficino, here comes all of Plato's works that we have now. That were just sitting in some library, getting a bunch of dust on them. And he's like, oh, maybe I should translate all these. Yeah. Okay.
Totally.
Sounds good.
Yep. It's a perfect bottleneck of influence in time. And Ficino to unpack into Xenophon. Man, there is some inside baseball of epic proportions going on. And it is fun to kind of stumble your way into it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like a murder mystery that never ceases to satisfy. But I want to point at Leo Strauss, who taught in Chicago University, and a lot of people in political philosophy circles are. It's a dog whistle to mention Leo Strauss. He's kind of the conspiracy theorist of political philosophy, but he's also at the cornerstone of a lot of what they call the neocon movement. And I learned very recently, maybe yesterday, that Leo Strauss had an epiphany moment when he realized how prophecy is embedded into, and it's in a disguise that we call politics. And so he sees prophecy and politics going hand in hand. And then Leo Strauss has basically corrected everybody's presumption that political science comes from Hobbes. Leo Strauss says, no, you guys had it wrong by 200 years. You got to go back to Machiavelli. And Machiavelli is really the patriarch of all political science. And that's amazing because Machiavelli was in stride with Ficino. And all these things are kind of coming back to those Medicis and the Caesar Borgia, and that other Pope, Pope Alexander, who became Rodrigo Borgia, right? Yeah, it all kind of bottlenecks right there. It's a trip. Oh, here, somebody's got Xenophon relates to Zeno. Yes, which is a stranger, a nomad.
Stranger.
Nomad backwards is a demon is
It's an alien.
for a reason.
It's an alien. It's a gray.
Yeah.
It's the gray man, the Greco man, the Greece, the Hellenes from hell.
Yeah, the aliens.
It's
the
those
strangers.
from
Yeah, same
hell.
word,
Just
same
like
thing.
Jack the Ripper from hell. They're all from. They're the Hellenics. I think that's honestly.
Yep. From the Hellespont. One other thing about Xenophon, he has the March of the Anabasis, I think it's called, and it's the record of him retreating from the Persians. So he's fighting on the rear front. And so, and he's also, because he's been in Persia, he's kind of carrying that provenance of the Zoroastrians. And in the Zoroastrian culture, they say, ride well and shoot straight. And so Xenophon's entire biography is best exemplified by the Sagittarius character in the heavens, which is a horseman. And a lot of people put their Sagittarius shooting forward. I think the best Sagittarius is shooting backwards over his own body. And that he's embodying Xenophonic wisdom, because Xenophon fights while running away. He knows how to fight and leave booby traps for his pursuers, or breadcrumb trails to lead you down the garden path. And that is really fun, because I think old Strauss is quite savvy to what I'm laying down there. And it all points to the prophecy or the politics of bringing Cyrus back.
No, Alex, you're not a demon from hell.
Yeah, buddy.
Did you want to get into the link you put in today about the is Greek? The history,
Yeah.
Because I think this is kind of where. So at least some of the answers to who is actually running things is eventually going to be. Maybe it's going to be hidden. Maybe, I don't know if we're ever going to figure it out, because there may not be records to actually allow that sort of thing.
Yes,
It's going to have to be like an intuitive thing.
Yeah, this is kind of a Anatoly Fomenko parallel research trail regarding historical echoes, where they take what is most likely the most recent biography seems to have been cut and pasted backwards in time to retrofit backwards further in time. And so, and apparently when you find a bunch of biographies that make this jump backwards in time, all of the biographies seem to be going exactly the same distance back in time. And so essentially it's a 1,800 year, I want to call it a temporal grab. They're actually staking a claim further back into the BCs. And so Plato, in about 400 BC-ish, may have very well been actually best historically, objectively true in the life of what they call Pletho. And Pletho was around 1414. And that stretch of time from Plato to Pletho is exactly this 1800-year time gap. Here, I got some graphics I can kind of share some
Wasn't that interesting how the time, if you look at that chart with the time, it kind of looks like the Reuben vase or the Reuben, which is, it's basically a grail. It's like a cup with two faces on the outside of it. But if you think of it as the grail, like these two, and also just the whole entire thought process and the philosophical, group that was behind the thinking that eventually develops this Reuben's vase, which I think if everyone has seen this picture, it's when you look at it's a black and white photo. When you look at it one way, you see a vase or a cup. When you look at it the other way, you see two faces looking at each other. But it looks exactly like these parallel timelines. And even the way the guy who created the image is described in his philosophy, it's all about parallels. It's all about literally, you could literally apply his philosophy to the timelines that you're getting in the timeline conversation.
Totally. Yeah. Are you guys seeing this?
And that's not even not even the original one. The original one actually is more jagged, just like the one.
More like that?
Yeah. If you hit like the link for, I think it's right underneath for Reuben's. The Reuben vase. Like it gets even more jagged. That's one of them. There's another one.
Let's see.
There's a second one underneath it, I think. But he is a what did they say he was? What type of philosopher did they say he was?
That looks even more like it because of the jagged nose.
Yeah. And I think they said he was he a Gestaltian or Gestalt? He was in. Hold on.
Oh, that actually makes some sense because we're looking at the gestalt of the timelines.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually very poetic. So yeah, this is a graphic I threw together.
Yeah. Gestalt psychology is what he was into.
Oh, interesting.
And that is all about perception and patterns, and literally that's what we're seeing here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take in.
Well, because then I'm thinking, what if the Grail is like the correct timeline?
Yeah.
Like it's the history that was stolen. That's the actual Grail.
And it's also kind of gives you the ability to speculate on the market as to changes that are coming ahead.
Well, and if you control the past, you control the present, you control the future.
Big time.
So if these guys have if they have the power to be the keepers of the chronology, they technically have the Grail. If that is the Grail.
They can alt the gist. They can alter the zeitgeist. They can alter the ghost.
Yeah.
The spirit of the times.
And then when I was looking at the Grail, the Greek word for Grail, it's very close to gray. It's it's a gray ale.
Yep. So this is a weird graphic. A lot of things to do with the number 9. Like 23 is the 9th prime number. I've got the 23rd Amendment with the Electoral College up there. 23andMe. And even Serpent's Kaput is the 23rd constellation. I've got the 9th Amendment with the enumerated powers. Turns out the 23rd Amendment was passed in ratified in 1961. 1661 is the 18th prime. Just a lot of strange consistency on this graphic. And then, of course, people call upon Psalms 23 in hard times. And I've heard a lot of powerful accounts of what Psalms 23 serves for people dealing with the demonic forces.
Oh yeah, that is the image. Actually, I was looking for that image too when I shared the one graph. I knew that someone had posted. I figured it was you. Yeah, the freaking the way that the graph is for the timelines matches that image that you put from the cards.
Yes. I think I have one more, a more close up of the moon card, but I just want to tell everybody, like, I not only believe that the Jeffrey Epstein thing was foreshadowed in Star Wars when Han Solo is locked in kryptonite. I think that they actually had Jeffrey Epstein play the character Mandalorian in the suit. When Mandalorian, the season whatever 1-2 came out, I think Jeffrey Epstein was actually in that suit fucking with everybody, because that's the kind of black magic that kind of bounces off of them and sticks to you. That's really what that is all about. And this is a weird graphic. This is Odysseus being blessed by Athena, or being convinced by Athena that he didn't let her down and that he should come back to Athens. And he's kind of having his theosity, oh my God, theosodological. He's having a God crisis. But yeah, he has to come back to the gods. Basically, he was trying to live without them, but he finds out that he can't live without them. Oh, I don't have another. Oh, here it is. Here we go. This is a more close up. So yeah, down here is the Anatoly Fomenko template of two dependent chronological chronicles show peaks at the same place in time. And so it's got whatever his mathematical probability of corresponding dynamics in history is down here in this graph. And look in the moon card how that very template is kind of in the backdrop, even with this peak, this the peak in the sine wave up here. That is trippy.
Yeah.
And so I'll just read. So what we have are three characters from ancient Greece, as they tell us, from about the 400s BC. And these three characters are the cornerstone that so much of philosophy and culture hinges upon them. And that is first Socrates, then Plato, then Aristotle. So they're passing a torch. And the dynamics of their biographies actually have a perfect three-man fit way later in time, around the 1414 AD. And that's about 1,800 years later. And so essentially, we'll start with Socrates may have actually been a teacher named Elizaius. And he was Pletho's teacher, much like Socrates was Plato's teacher. And he was persecuted for his beliefs, and he was sentenced to death, just like Socrates. Well, let's go look at Plato. Plato had this 1,800 year later perfect echo in the character Pletho. And both Plato and Pletho had similar names, same language, both philosophers, both notorious, both lived long lives, had important teachers, similar ideas, similar writings, similar beliefs, both made Plato famous, and both founded academies. And all of the writing of Plato came out of Pletho's academy. So he is the bottleneck of what very much might have been his pen name. Now, I want to say this, PK, you've probably heard this before too. That in philosophy, they oftentimes carry a similar name to the type of philosophy they are a member of. It's almost like a membership card. And so like Plotinus is also very correspondent to the Platonic philosophy, you know? And so they would not deny that these names are very similar, but they would say that they're similar by design. But it's more than just that. There's something more going on because of this three-man perfect fit. Because when you look at Plato's student in correspondence to Pletho's student, we find out that They both have comparable names, similar role in their early lives, both philosophers, same attitude towards their teacher. They had a kind of a student betrays the teacher, almost a Judas betraying the Jesus. From Aristotle to Plato, well, the same thing happened with Scholarius on to Pletho. In both of their names, they don't look like they're the same, but when you translate them in their separate cultures, the result is similar. Aristotle means noble purpose, and Scholarius means noble student. And then they had the same political context. That's an understatement. There's so much more to that part. They had extremely similar political context. They're both patriarchs of Scholastica at large. And then they both worked for for conquerors, for an encroaching somebody who overthrew the empire. I think Scholarius came into power after Constantinople fell, and the same thing with Aristotle after Athens fell. So yeah, it's so profound. So, and I think it's maybe more rewarding to look to the more recent event using this this template of Fulcanelli. We shouldn't be stretching our faith way past the printing press into time to the BCs. I think we can actually take a real firm stance to actually spend our time studying Scholarius, Pletho, and this Eliseus, who might have actually been objective characters that we can kind of measure some of the effects and some of the political changes / prophetic promises that are in the subtext of history at large.
Yeah. Did you see too the this whole thing about the Saint Omer tribe when that's who they were saying might be related to Homer? But
Yeah.
I just realized that in Saint Omer, which is a now location in France, it's a commune, is a river called AA. And then I thought that was interesting. That I'd never heard of this river called just spelled AA.
That is. Oh, and you know what? In case anybody missed it, the reason I'm focusing on the moon card and why it's important that the moon card has Anatoly Flamenco's pattern for the copy pasta of history is because the moon card is number 18. And we're talking about 1800 years that might have been completely falsified in history. So yeah, that kind of tells me that it is very likely that Lady Frida Harris and or Lackluster Crowley were quite savvy with the 1800 additional years that I think are kind of a leap of faith, even for the non-religious folks, even for the philosophers, they're taking a leap of faith back in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even Steiner mentions that time is a reflection of itself. But I don't know if that's him saying there's something odd here, that we can see things being reflected, or if he just didn't get that far and it wasn't something he looked deeply into and he thought maybe it was a reflection, because that's the whole reason his timeline for the Ahrimanic stuff is a little bit further in the future, like past our lifetimes. And I think that if he actually maybe reconsidered that and thought if the 1800 years actually are taken out of his date for when the Ahrimanic thing is supposed to peak, basically, it'd be basically now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if we pull the deception of the lie of history away, it brings Ahriman into the present moment.
Exactly.
Holy shit, dude. Whoa.
Yeah.
Man alive. Well, Ahriman is totally a number 3 on the Enneagram, y'all. So get your authenticity up to the max. Yep. Keep your bullshit meters nice.
It's that AI dude, right? That always talks at the
Harari.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's Ahriman.
I mean, he has it in his name, like Harariman, right?
Yeah.
Dude, that guy creeps me out so much I never look at him, but now I'm going to look at him in a new light.
Ahriman.
And you know who was messaging me the other day after me and Silas did the show that we did with Ronan? It was Shinobi. Remember Shinobi from the roundtables and stuff? And he was saying in the UK, their DARPA is called I think it's ARIA, ARAI. That's the name of their DARPA, and they basically focus on, I think, weaponry that would be deployed from the air. So you have
Vegas too.
Yeah, and that's a super Ahrimanic thing than being basically deceivers of the air or of the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, this is a really obscure little fact, and if anybody can find the receipts, let me know. I believe that the Vatican has had essentially like a trademark capture on anything that travels in the air, going back to the age of pigeons, in carrier pigeons. And so they have a treaty. It's like called the Vox in Aria, might be it. And so that is like the command of, or the tall voice over the air travel from. And then there's also a thing about, have you guys ever heard that the birds and the pigeons had a huge population dive, like some kind of crazy worldwide outbreak in the pigeon populations?
Yeah. Because of the probably because of all the RF and radio frequencies from the towers and whatnot.
Yeah. What was that, PK? What did you pop up there?
I don't get. I mean, it's determination of qualified bicycle commuting reimbursement exclusion. Okay. So like they're striking. Did people used to get a bicycle commuting reimbursement? But this just like really points out that they're throwing in crazy shit, where I was just looking at the defense spending and it was like astronomical numbers. It was like we need 450 million for an aerial defense system. We need 250 million to make sure that this plane doesn't go out of commission. And they listed off, like billions of dollars. And then you got this.
Totally irrelevant
determination of qualified by, like, why are they putting all this shit together all in one little thing and being like, hey, are you for it or are you against it? It's like all seemingly unrelated shit.
Yeah, man. My old coworker, he used to say it to me at least once a day. He would say, it's not supposed to make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
of that all the time. It's like, it's not supposed to. Why are you trying to make it make sense? And I'm like, because I love patterns, man. Because I love logic. That's pretty fun.
My.
Yeah, I think another thing that I saw with the whole Musk stuff, that just to bring him back up for one more time, was some of the people trying to get him on board with the UAP stuff were actually mentioning also a bunch of AI stuff that he might not know about. And apparently he should have known about it with the clearances he was given. And one of the references was to, what's his name? The guy who runs OpenAI now.
Thiel or
not Thiel? Was it Altman or not Altman? Is it Altman?
I don't know.
Sounds right. Definitely something like that.
Yeah, it's the dude who used to be partners with at OpenAI, and now he hates him, doesn't like him. But apparently, they were saying that the White House has a sentient AI system that can predict future events. I mean, I feel like we've kind of all been saying this forever with the sentient world simulation that's now called SEER. But they were also saying that, I think it's Sam Altman. But I think that's his name. But I feel like it's so close to Sam Bankman-Fried that it's like messing with my head.
No, it sounds right.
They were saying that he had actually already decommissioned 2 conscious or artificially conscious AIs, which is bizarre too, just to bring that up in the conversation. And they were also leaking certain parts of the Immaculate Constellation documents to Musk. It's really weird, really strange.
Immaculate Constellation documents.
Yeah. That's one of their.
What is that?
It's all this, what is it, like all advanced technology, sort of black projects that we don't know if what they're really doing, how much of the technology is legitimate.
But they're calling it an Immaculate Constellation?
Yeah. This one's actually, that's a real project, right? That's not a speculated one.
Yeah, I've heard that. I'll be right back, fellas. I'm getting bugged up. I'm going to do a transition back into the house. BRB.
Immaculate.
I feel like this had to do with Stargate. But I don't quote me on that. The Immaculate Constellation document. I think there's a whole document online now. Yeah, see, this has to do with ATIP and ASAP. Yeah, ASAP, the two UAP programs that they've told us about. Okay. Yeah, I think it's kind of like we don't really know if this is an actual thing or not.
Right.
Yeah. So I could see Musk kind of pivoting into that role for UAP and advanced technology, because I mean, I think kind of that's why he took the name of Tesla, so he could ultimately put out some of the Tesla tech, or at least be a whistleblower for some of it.
Yeah, if he's going to Mars, he can
whistleblower.
You know, if he's going to Mars, who's better to meet the Martians?
Right. So. I don't know if it was going anywhere, but yeah. He definitely could use it as something that he's upset about not knowing. Like, why didn't Daddy Trump tell me about these programs when I'm trying to get to Mars and I need the technology? Yeah.
I mean, just to call it Immaculate Constellation, man, I get surprised. Like the more and more you get into this stuff is just like.
All this alien stuff, a lot of people are really hopping on to that. Like in the like a lot of normie people and even non-normie people, a lot of the conspiracy people are hopping onto it because I think it's like something for them to believe in, and they really need something like the alien stuff, like all the UAP alien disclosure type of thing. Which is a weird thing because especially in the conspiracy world, it's like the one thing they trust some of the government officials on. Yeah. Oh, 100%, and it's 100% psyop hell in that whole world.
Yeah, but it's also could be like a little bit of humanity having a shift, and it's going to be one thing with. So people will be having new experiences or whatever, could be having new experiences, new psychological, spiritual, whatever, however, you want
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the tech actually, a lot of it exists and it's ours. I don't know if it's from anything off planet.
Right.
At least not off planet in a physical way.
Unless we're from off planet. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, well, that's why I say off planet in a physical way, maybe like off planet in a spiritual way. I think kind of that's why we're seeing all the 47, a lot of 47 symbolism pop up, and I think that's like a Roswell thing, like they were saying in that episode with Chris Knowles and on Higher Side Chats, and where he's talking about Lucius technologies or Lucifer technologies, and because that gets us back to Roswell and all these possible occult rituals that have been being done forever to maybe get some sort of exchange of advanced technologies that we didn't have prior. I mean, a lot of times this is, I guess, received in visions during psychedelic drug trips.
Psychedelic drug trips?
Yeah, because
medicinal journeys, medicinal healing, shamanic experiences.
I guess now that's what it would be called, right? Back in the day, though, And I guess even now, a lot of the people using it don't use it with the shaman. So it's at that point, it just becomes another psychedelic trip, right?
Yeah, totally. I was putting together. I was thinking more pontificating more on my mushroom experience a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I feel like, dude, I met the like nihilism of the universe.
Oh, that's not good.
Why is it not good?
Well, I mean, it's good. Well, it's fine for you because I think you have a very. I feel like you're a very integrated person. So for you, fine. If someone who's never really taken any time to know themselves, that would kind of suck.
It was very unsettling. It was a very unsettling experience because it was like the whole, the question that has, I want to say, plagued humanity since time immemorial, like, what are we doing here? Why are we here? What's the purpose, the meaning, like everyone who's ever thought deeply seems to like, that's question of humanity, right? Why are we here? What are we doing? That was the question that the universe was asking itself too. And so that's what I mean is like in nihilism. And it's like whenever it found out the answer, it was like, nah, that's whenever it asked a question, it was like, no, that's the answer.
Wow.
And it was just this nihilism loop, man. That's what I experienced. So just, reporting back, whatever, 2-3 weeks later.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Just like this, and I'm not saying it was a bad thing. It was a little bit like, damn, I almost felt bad for it. And I'm saying it because I was like looking at it from, I wasn't in it. I was outside looking in at it. But
because
it's like that's everything, and I was looking at it.
It becomes almost like a fractal, never-ending fractal loop, as you were saying, but then it almost is like a trap because like there's no end.
Mm-hmm. Like and I had this feeling of like, oh shit, like no, there can't be. Like I remember having that feeling, and then I was so actually like relieved when I came back into my body and was like sane, because that shit was crazy. And so I was so relieved when I came back and was like, oh my God, okay, wow, like hands, earth, okay, we're good, I'm back. It was like, it was very I won't say scary and won't say sad. It was just dude, it was a loop. Like it was trying to do what humanity does as far as the big question. It was trying to figure it out too.
Were there any shapes or patterns or colors?
Yes, the whole thing was a shape and pattern. The thing I'm talking about, that was like answering question and asking the question was a shape pattern thing. It kind of like is how people describe when they I don't know, see like a lower angel form. I've heard, they'll do seeing, and they always describe the angels as being kind of geometric, but it wasn't like
the machine elves.
It wasn't a pretty geometric thing. No, definitely wasn't like an elf with face or nothing. It was more of like just a abstract shapes that were contorting out.
Isn't that the machine elves? They're actually not really like elves. They're just figures that are changing different geometries into themselves, and then they answer questions, speak in riddles sometimes, and I don't know. Maybe. I've never seen them.
Yeah, I've never been to DMT.
Yeah,
I've never been to DMT. I totally would do it though.
Also on mushrooms, you'll see these things apparently.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
On mushrooms, they see the
sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. I've never seen anything.
Okay.
Be interesting.
Yeah. I always think about how what DMT is described as by people who have never read Dante's Divine Comedy, how it fits into Dante's Divine Comedy. Because very similarly, Dante needs a psychopomp, a guide, somebody who's going to show him the ropes and might even speak in his place in certain situations. And the background is filled with people who are toiling, people who are busy, kind of uh, paying off their penance or whatever their situation, their perpetual toil is going on. That makes me think of the machine elves very much, the way they're reported back. And then also, Nietzsche has a phrase that I think is referring to Dante. Nietzsche talks about the dark workshop of the mind. And that exact phrase, the dark workshop of the mind, I think he's pulling that out of Dante. But then when I hear people talk about DMT, which is the same phonetics, it's like they're going into the workshop of the mind to see where all these fantastic toys of the imagination are fabricated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by little dudes with Mithraic hats. Holy shit, the Smurfs really worked. The Smurfs have fully set in.
Now, what PK was saying, though, it almost sounds like a larger entity, right? A singular entity, not a bunch of small ones that you were seeing.
Yeah, it was definitely like one.
One of their bosses.
Uh-huh.
It was like the boss dude.
One of their bosses, one of the machine elves' bosses.
What kind of shrooms and what was your setting?
I don't know what kind of shrooms it was. Cause my sister got them for me. But they were like grown. So they weren't the cow poop candy variety.
Okay.
Which I actually prefer. And the setting was after like the show, going to see live music and stuff, walking home, I don't really smoke weed and hit a joint like 3 times, and that took me.
Wow. Yeah.
I was fine. I was walking home. It was fine. Then you hit a joint 3 times, and I had to go like lay down by the bush for a minute and have this experience. Yeah. It put me down for a minute. I wasn't down like forever, but like, or I came to after a while, but it was like that. I basically got detached, if you will. I wasn't me for a second.
Yep,
in that experience. Whereas up to then, like, I ate shrooms. I started to get a body high. I was, this is all me. And then smoke joint, hit it 3 times, go down and bush. There's no more Paul. There was no more Paul. There was whatever the fuck that thing was, and like, there was no thinking of me.
I love that you
that whole like nihilism thing. I was still trying to wrap my, I see in here like soul trap. How do we get out of it? And like, so that crossed my mind too, because I heard that and I'm like, really, I'm not down with that way of thinking, because I feel like it doesn't serve a purpose. That it's like, even if it was a soul trap and you wanted to look at it that way, why would you? That has been kind of my mentality of it. But like, so yeah, I struggle with that a little bit, because I do have a sort of, bad reaction to the whole soul trap vibe, crowd, whatever. That in a way, like, it makes sense, and like you can totally make a compelling argument of sorts, but I see that it serves no purpose to live an enjoyable, happy life. Like, why do you want to this experience is what we make of it, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And to me, that sort of thinking. But so this experience, was kind of pretty deep, just thinking of like the nihilist. And then it's like, what if this whole universe doesn't know what it's doing? And so people like to think of this like omnipotent, all-knowing, omniscient God. But it's like, man, I even question if whatever the hell you think God is has all the answers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's all like everything's trying to figure itself out,
Right.
on different levels.
Yeah.
So
What's that? It's that idea of there being almost like a God that has abandoned or a source consciousness that is outside of the realm, the physical realm, that doesn't have anything to do with us here, which kind of would make sense to me, because if it's a consciousness, it would have had to create multiple other consciousness is to know itself, and those would have been the ones that then start creating the physical realm, and that one would have been just like an observer on the outside. So there would be no kind of help or influence coming from him or it.
Or it might be like oblivious to it, just how we're oblivious to all the living organisms on our body, for the most part. Like they're a part of it, but we don't interact directly with them.
Yeah.
Or try to communicate with them, or like, so I wonder if it's like that shit.
Yeah. Sorry, Gabe. The only last thing I was going to say about that was that that remote viewing session that guy did that one time a long time ago. He took it off YouTube even because, I don't know, I guess it was too negative maybe, or where they did the collective remote viewing and saw basically this weird soul recycling factory. But it was under the name of something else that you said you were familiar with. Chomsky, David Chomsky. God, I have to look it up.
Dostoevsky?
No, it was a name of a spiritual principle. Let me see if I could figure it out.
Okay. One thing I love in regards to paganism and panentheism is making the allowance for a council, for a spectrum of divine energies that are not, I was just kind of researching this, the difference between hard paganism and soft paganism. And some people would say that soft paganism is to say that, oh yeah, there are many gods, but ultimately all those other gods, they all funnel up to a oneness somewhere, that the monad makes them all connected and universalizes them. That is actually soft paganism.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot to say as to how soft paganism is kind of monotheistic power grab sneaking in the back door. And hard paganism believes that there is a polycentric manifold different gods that do not connect ultimately to some oneness. They do not connect ultimately, that each one of them is a complete intact hermetic system in themselves. And that gives them permission to not always get along, to have every reason, every telos to not get along. And that explains a lot. That maybe whatever we call this divine, the divine above and beyond us, it doesn't have to all be one. It doesn't have to all be one. And maybe the oneness of it all is the biggest fucking psyop there ever was. There ever was. But I think it's healthier to think that there's multiple gods that do not get along, that are compelled to argue or fight or find strife with between each other, because I think that's good. That fosters a good martial mind, to know that while you want to be kind and altruistic to everybody you see, there is very good reason that you will never live your entire life without coming across legitimate evil that wants to fucking kill you. And that you should always be on your toes for somebody answering to another divine drive, to another divine paradigm that wants to snuff you out.
One thing, we can hear you just fine, but maybe turn your mic or talk closer into it.
Okay.
Another thing, well, I was going to say, isn't it interesting that, you know, what we do as in humans and science and society or whatever is we always try to box and label everything, and like, you know, look at everything besides religion, and it's like, how many species are there? How many, you know, everything's boxed and labeled or whatever. And then what does that do? And so then our science expands and grows, and whatever, we learn more and all this. And then look at religion, and they have it just down to, oh, God, you know, and it's like, okay, we just like totally made this for fucking preschoolers. Like, look at our spirituality. It's like, oh, look, God. Then go look at fucking, you know,
Here,
science, the animal kingdoms, and like everything.
I have a few things that I think are going to connect to what you both just said. Moksha or moksha was the way, was that thing, by the way, the remote viewing thing.
Okay.
But
yes, that was intense. That was really something.
Yeah.
What a cool word too.
But as far as the paganism versus soft paganism, see, I don't think there's much of a difference between seeing things as separate entities that people are worshiping that have their own individuality and their own sovereignty, because I think even if that came from a source consciousness, that could still occur, because you can have these archetypal entities that divided off of an original consciousness that then have their own sovereignty, and that's how we get polarity. Right. And it manifests in polarity that's a physical property, like, and you see that with magnetism and electricity, but then I think it also eventually gets to a psychological property, and that's why you see moral good and moral evil that are objectively so. Like, it's not something that's subjective. There is a natural law that you can kind of see that both sides of the equation are present on. And that doesn't mean it's from a separate beginning, but that also doesn't mean those entities now don't have their own sort of sovereign selves. And I think both can happen, and both probably have happened. And to me, it just makes more logical sense that that would be how it would occur if there was a beginning. That is, if there wasn't, then that's where it gets kind of tricky.
Yes, totally. And, you know, and just to keep it extra tricky, like, what if the oneness, the unification, we're assuming it's in the past, and that the bifurcation of the fractalizing is moving forward in time? What if it's the other way around? What if it started fractalized, and in the future somewhere is where it unifies? You know?
And oddly, when you look at like the sort of Ouroboros and these sort of figure that's similar to the Ouroboros, but you kind of can see that happening. Like, we're going towards a oneness, then we break apart towards a fractal, then we come back towards a oneness, and it's just a never-ending cycle. And that's kind of what PK was just saying, that he was kind of seeing going on in his vision when he was taking the mushrooms.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I mean, that could be the way it is. And if that's the way it is, that even makes sense with electricity and magnetism, because you have this destructive force that's pulling things in, and this expansive force that's creating. Yeah, and it's just like cycles.
I dig it. It could be Analimas all the way down. So,
but that doesn't mean that's all there is. Maybe there's something outside of that. That's just the physical.
Right. It could be like 3 different Analimas at the same time, all the way down.
So it's all it. It's all Analimas. You heard it here first, folks. All Analimas.
All Analimas.
So PK, I want to show something off regarding the 3-letter word that summarizes everything. The 3-letter. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. The omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibenevolent. So right, the G, O, and the D. This is fun. You've seen this before, PK, but I'm just going to show it off for those who haven't. So I'm pretty sure this is salt, and this is Mercury, and this is sulfur.
Are you going to make us a monad? John D's monad? Getting close.
There is some hieroglyphic up in that, isn't there?
Mm.
But yeah, GOD and the sulfur, mercury, and salt. Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yep, the mind, body, soul.
Oh, Marcelo Gabbard's in the house. What up, Marcelo?
The mind, body, soul, and then, mind, body, soul. Isn't mind actually, shouldn't that be now soul? Is that like the psyche should be soul and then spirit should be separate? And you both probably know this better than I do.
Yeah, man. Psyche is totally the soul, and somehow people just don't see it that way anymore. They got a million words, and you know what else? I just relearned that it was John Locke who even kind of took the psyche and the soul out of the vernacular and placed the term consciousness.
Oh, interesting. And who took out spirit?
I'm not sure, but the thing about John Locke and consciousness being associated is that John Locke was obsessed with property rights. And that's just fascinating to think of how, because of intellectual property, right? And John Locke was very much embedded into property rights. And yeah, but it's just so weird how I always think of these people as intellectual, as more on the philosophical side. But you kind of find out that a lot of the words that they're using are just avoiding the more spiritual truth underneath it, and I really love that. And I love also conch shows us noise. The conch shows us noise is consciousness.
I can't help but every time I hear John Locke to think of Lost. And if you think of the Lost character, John Locke, when he's taken over by the Man in Black, then maybe it kind of might relate to this idea of like getting rid of this soul and the psyche, or what was it? Soul. Which words did he change?
He changed soul.
Soul to consciousness, and psyche to consciousness. Yeah. Which if you think about Lost, the character probably would have liked that because he took over the body of someone else. He possessed someone else's body, and he wouldn't want anyone thinking of a soul being in there.
Right. Trippy. Man, Lost was such an investment.
Filled with secrets that still are unraveling themselves.
Yeah, Lost was a total investment, and I was so very let down, but I could go back and watch it.
I actually liked the ending. I was trying to explain a little bit of it to the girlfriend the other day because she didn't like it either. But I thought how those two timelines in the last two seasons were running. Mm-hmm. The one they were dead already, and the one they weren't. But it was kind of showing you how there's no time once you die, so you're existing simultaneously. So we're already dead, and our souls live in this place all the time, even now. That's our higher self, maybe now, but like that's why they need to be woken up on that side. Their higher selves are being woken up because some of them are still playing things out in the physical realm. But there really is no time, so technically they are dead. It's just we're seeing a totally different way of time playing out on that side of things. And it's just fascinating to think that you're already in, like, whatever has already happened, will happen. And I mean, it kind of is a peaceful thing to think about too at the same time, because in the end, everything's going to be fine as long as you can let go of this place.
Right.
That's why Jack has to let go.
I think that's the secret of the Bible, man. To sin is to die, and to die is to live. Therefore, to sin is to live.
Wow. Wow, buddy. Wow.
And PK,
Yeah.
there was something else you said before, and I forgot to say something when you had said it, but it was along the lines of, it was almost to the point where you were saying we have to be okay with not knowing everything. But you didn't say that exactly, but I think that's what you were kind of saying, or at least part of what you were saying. And I think that's a lot of the problem with just almost every, from religion to materialists and atheists and the scientism. No one's okay with not knowing everything. And that causes every time like just massive destruction in the end.
Yeah. I struggle with that myself. I want to know. Tell me, show me.
But wanting to know is different than also being like a billionaire and being like, oh, we're going to find out. And then you run an experiment on the entire world. Huge difference.
All right. So we're talking that level.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're saying now. Yeah.
Yeah, like the transhumanists seem to want to know everything and know how everything works so they can never leave this place. They can't let go.
Such a trip that there's such thing as full blood transfusions. You know, people can actually afford full blood transfusions, and you're like, oh, that's weird. And then you're like, oh yeah, by the way, it's children's blood. Oh,
Yeah, they're blood boys.
What the fuck is going on? You know, I had an
Is that how
invention.
they live to be like 500 years old? They just change the oil with.
We don't know. That might be part of it.
Dang,
So
dude,
crazy. It's
is
so
that
tricky.
how you do it? Is that how you live?
Well, you know, I had an invention idea. I'll just blab it out. This is one of my better ones, but it's essentially like a home dialysis refrigeration machine that after a good day at the gym, you got all your blood cell, all your count is nice and high, your diet's been good for, 5 days straight, and then you actually store your own blood in your own refrigerator. And then once you have a supply of your own, you actually can you can syncopate your training regiment into a phi ratio pattern. So you don't train for, let's just imagine, I'm not savvy enough to pull this off the top of my head, but you train today and you wait one day and then you train. And then you wait X amount of days before you train again. And then you go back to your refrigerator full of your own blood and you do what's the guy, the bicyclist who cheated?
Lance Armstrong.
You Lance Armstrong yourself on your training day, and then you wait a certain amount of days, and you're doing the waiting period is into the phi ratio. And so every time you perform, you're actually boosting yourself and syncopating to the pattern of phi by Lance Armstronging on this pattern. Does that make
Now,
sense?
Yeah.
Is this blood somewhat fresh and present blood, or is this your blood from 15 years ago?
It's your own blood from.
I was going to ask that too.
Yeah, it's your own blood from maybe a few months ago until you run out.
Okay. All right.
Now, isn't that an interesting idea too? Can you do that with your blood from, say you have blood from when you're 20, and then you want to be like, oh, how long does blood stay?
Right.
Oh, and what if you did
it go bad or whatever?
Yeah.
But even if it doesn't go bad, which I don't know, maybe you could freeze it or some shit. But
Sure, you
like they
could.
say, some people change blood types too. I don't know. Like,
What?
Yeah, I've heard that too. But
Whoa.
let's say, but let's say you don't. Let's say you don't. The person doesn't. Could they take something if they took it out of themselves when they were 20, stored it, and then used it when they were 50? Would that help them to like stay younger? I don't know.
That's a tricky question. And would they have the same dreams from the week that they took it 20 when they were 20? Would the dreams from that time come back? That's pretty fun.
Because wouldn't they all? The thing is, too, when all these rich elite families who have access to this sort of stuff, wouldn't they all be doing this then? If that was the case, why would they need someone else's? Unless there's something else to this whole blood boy thing that we're not being told.
Right.
Well, probably I'd be thinking that fresher is better. So, you'd want, if your younger blood's better, it's gonna be 15 years old. So
I just keep mine.
I think fresher blood would be the ticket.
I mix mine in with like 30% coconut water.
It'd be like an island blood.
And let's see. So how long does blood stay viable? Shelf life 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
You just put yourself on a list.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. 6 weeks is maximum shelf time.
Okay, all right.
You can't freeze it.
That's what they're saying with the whole blood samples commonly referred to as wet blood have limited shelf life. So wait, is that something different?
See, they're not gonna tell us the truth anyway, because they want everyone to donate.
Yeah. Maybe there actually may be a way where you have dried blood, which might not include the plasma or something like that.
Oh,
like space blood.
PK, can you help us play Sherry's clip here? Are you able to do that? Last time it was the placenta conversation on the Joe Rogan show. That was
cocaine.
That was tripped out. One second, my cherie. Thank you for sharing.
Oh yeah, we're totally playing this. All right.
Oh wait, I'm not seeing it. Hold on.
I know. I gotta stop.
Oh
no, I gotta share differently for sound.
Okay.
Present share.
We're at 2 hours and 16 minutes. That's 6 times 6 times 6.
Yeah, it is.
Perfect timing, my cherie.
Yeah.
TAX.
Share tab or screen set. Man, this is always so difficult. All right. It's not even there.
That's a trip.
Oh, here it is.
Freezing breast milk 6 months.
All right.
80% of the donations that go.
Can you guys hear it?
Oh, yeah, I know this guy. Reynolds, right?
80% of the donations that go to those blood banks here in the United States are used by pharmaceutical companies to make our drugs.
Mm-hmm.
People are consuming the blood in their pharmaceuticals every single day. Excellent documentary that you guys can find that goes through an investigative report that tracked the blood banks from inner cities here in the United States overseas into Europe, and where they were manufacturing the very drugs, chemotherapy drugs, blood pressure drugs, barbiturates, all kinds of different drugs that are being used, and it's the blood. Literally, it's coming from the blood of mankind. That
Also
is
plasma.
why the whole world gets deceived from these sorceries, pharmakeia. Like, this is what he's dealing with, because he's warning us, don't eat blood, don't eat blood. You don't understand the spiritual ramifications of what happens when you eat this stuff. And so people are taking pharmaceuticals, completely not understanding that now there's a legal doorway that's opened up in their life for the adversary to accuse them before the Father, for him to execute condemnation. 80% of the donations that go to those blood banks here in the U.S.
Dude, all right.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Also plasma too. This is happening with. If you donate plasma, a lot of the plasma you donate will be sent to biopharmaceutical companies that can then make drugs out of your plasma.
So this is how Seth tricked Horus. And essentially, let me try to remember. Seth ejaculated on the lettuce and fed it to Horus. so that Horus would be defiled in the face of whatever the judgment, the time of judgment. That is a trip. That is an old op right there. And then I think there was some sort of retribution where Horus like flipped the script on him and got revenge in the next chapter. So yeah, so Seth doesn't necessarily win, but that's the first time that this tricking somebody else into eating something, so that when the competition and the tally is counted, yeah, wow, that's effed. And also, fuck, y'all. Think about all the pills: blue pill, red pill, black pill. Everybody's talking about how many pills are you taking? You know, what's in your wallet?
Well,
Placenta
there
pill.
was something
Yeah.
I had found during the lockdowns, and I wish, dude, I don't know where I put it, because it was a organization that had something to do with the NIH and had something to do with the CDC. They had almost no one following them up because they were such an obscure part of like the whole health system. But they had gotten a bill passed where it was discussing generic pharmaceuticals. And basically what they were now going to be allowed to do as of, I guess, the year after, which it was probably, I'm guessing this started in 2024, because I found it back in like 2023, 2022. They were going to start making these generic pharmaceuticals using sDNA, which is something they never were allowed to use, but it was basically genetic sequences and genetic properties that you would only typically have found in the sort of mRNA type of what do they call them? Genetic
GMOs.
No, the mRNA shot's not a vax, it's a genetic therapy. So typically you'd only see these things in like genetic therapies, but now the sDNA, and there was another form of DNA, were going to be able to be used as fillers in these generic pharmaceuticals. Because A, it's cheaper, and B, it can be used as biomarkers, and C, it can be used as God knows what the hell. It probably makes people sicker for all we know.
Damn.
And no one said a word about that. I don't even think anyone even knew that was going on.
That makes me feel a lot less gross about my Adderall related childhood.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. And I saw there was only like 10 people following the account, but it was an official account. They had all the links, everything to all the main government pages saying this was going to happen. So it's like, what? It's like, it's wild. No one found it. No one said a word. I think at the time I might have shared it with some people, but it was just everyone was so concerned just with the shots and.
It's way worse than just the devil in the details.
Yeah, right.
Soylent Green is people, y'all. Soylent Green is people. That's fucked. That was crazy. Thank you, my Cherie. Thank you very much for freaking us out.
It is. So everyone stop taking your meds. This is not medical advice. But
Right.
if you're gonna eat
Tippecanoe
people,
Herbs.
do
Go
it.
to Tippecanoe Herbs for everything, for all your health needs, ladies and
There you
germs.
I was gonna say, do it straight.
Yeah, man.
Get your stick. Go eat that person. Don't take their pill indirectly. You know. So
I mean,
that's crazy.
They probably got everyone at this point. Who knows with what they're putting in, even regular Tylenol, Advil. I'm sure we've all taken something at some point.
Man, and
Totally.
I was thinking the other day, I heard somebody, you guys ever listen to Dabu 777?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that dude's voice. I love his whole presentation. I do not agree with him, but I want to get my news from somebody who sounds like they're in a bunker ready to fucking
Listen, guys, there's just a lot going on. It's not good. Trump's he's gonna kill everyone, basically. It's real bad. I've been trying to tell you.
Yeah, and every once in a while, somebody pulls up and puts the headlights on his house, and he's like, hold on, somebody's at the door. And I'm like,
Are you serious?
at him. Yeah, he's hardcore, dude. He's so hardcore. I
He's
love
like,
that.
this
guy.
helicopter has been going overhead multiple times now. I swear to God. I swear to God, guys.
Totally. So on the regular, he uses the term true bloods or pure bloods. And the first few times I heard it, way back before the lockdowns, even, I was like, pure bloods. Yeah, I'm an only child. So whatever that is, it does not even, it goes, it slides right off my back. But then the lockdowns happen. Then people take the poke. And now we got, the wheat from the chaff is taking place. And when I hear him say pure bloods, I'm like, man, they're like, to what degree in the future are you going to be asking for documentation that the people you're dating, the people that you're going to actually intermingle your genetics with, to get them to prove that they're not some descendant of the new generation of Nephilim,
Right.
from the poke. It's a
You get your unregulated AI technology stick, and you got to scan them.
The problem is though, like I feel like that's not the right way to go about it. Almost, I feel like that's gonna cause more problems than actually at this point than we think. I think the not getting it, the energy behind not complying was the more important part.
Right.
In that, for various reasons.
Right.
And I think then going on to judge people who did, even if they now have woken up to then I think that's where we start becoming just as bad as the
people. I think he's talking about, all right, how I took that was he was talking about not necessarily this last one, but what if something like that happens? Happens like 5 more times or something. And
at that point,
there are people who are literally like super mRNA'd up.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Versus like that's how I took what Gabe was saying.
I could feel you on that. That's a little bit different because then at that point they've continually given away their rights and basically handed over their sovereignty,
right?
And they're not on our side at that anymore. Like I mean, and there's something Thomas Sheridan was saying, and he still says it sometimes, but not as often. But he would end his broadcast with sanguinosis, which means like
wow.
It was like a sanctity of the blood. You found your blood was like a holy thing to you, so that you weren't going to let anyone mess with it, as far as you can control.
Yeah.
And I always liked that. I always liked saying that as opposed to saying pure blood or something that sounds more like maybe World War II Germany.
Totally. Isn't it crazy how we've kind of been, totally. We're kind of in the same vein of direction.
And it is because it's like, how do you know? You got to give them a fucking gold star or something. How else would you know?
The real ID gold star. It's a
give them a gold star.
So I wonder.
And sanguine, I think, means like it's almost like sanctity of the blood.
Yeah,
like it literally is like almost like it comes from I think it's almost even like a Christian idea in some of the hardcore Eastern orthodoxies, like where the blood is holy.
Yeah,
it is something that shouldn't be messed with.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking, and now, these ideas would make for good fantasy fiction or some sort of, premise or plot for a story, but also it might come in handy in the future. So in Capoeira, the dance that we do is based on some old African traditions called the Ngolo, is when a male zebra is interested in a female zebra, there's a certain tension and dynamic to allow him to spend time with the female zebra because her dad is her guardian. And if the suitor, the new zebra, the young buck, wants to get with her, her dad's going to come and intervene, and he's going to check this young buck. And this is all ritualized in that the dad has a fighting dance competition with the young buck. And if the young buck can't hold his own in this battle, then he is not worthy to court the daughter, the mare. And so the fight that the father and the son, the potential son-in-law, have to duke it out, it's actually a dowry. This is a dowry for the bride. And so that is the foundation of what Capetta is. And I'm thinking to myself, if they keep poking these God-blessed children with this shit, am I going to be filtering out the suitors for my daughter someday? Am I going to be going to their parents? Am I going to be going to their record and their job history and find out how fucked up their DNA is before I?
You might not. You might not even have to, because those people may not be around anyways.
Right. But yeah, but before I can give my whatever, my blessings onto a potential marriage, am I going to be digging up his vax history? And will the next generation be having these same thoughts of how do we keep these zombie hordes out of our genetic lineages? That's a trip.
God, I hope they do. I hope they have the same thoughts.
Well, here's where the big plot twist would occur, is if the government suddenly agreed with what we were just saying, and they've already trained the kids using the zombie CDC programs that they did,
Right.
which were basically taking people who were infected with something that was basically, it needed to be contained, and it was keeping them in different zones from the non-infected.
Have you guys seen the fourth wave? It's a low.
I feel like I feel like I've seen pieces of the fifth wave.
Maybe it was fifth wave. Maybe that was it.
But I don't know if that was a lower budget. Might have been medium budget.
Medium, yeah. That's the one where the kids get taken in by the government, trained how to fight on like kind of a virtual augmented reality goggles, and they tell the kids that all of the parents have aliens in their brains.
Wait, so is the trailer for that like the first wave was blah blah blah, the second wave and the aliens come down, and then blah blah, and the fifth wave was, and yeah, okay, yeah,
yep, and so the fifth wave is actually that the government has actually indoctrinated the kids to wear augmented reality goggles, and then they put guns in the children's hands and send them out against the parents.
Basically, Black Mirror episode 2, same exact thing. When they send the soldiers out with the goggles and they think they're facing monsters,
right?
And they're really just killing humans.
Yes, that's what happened to Hercules. Hercules had his vision augmented, so he thought he was fighting monsters, and he comes through, and it's his own family, and they're all dead, and he's completely ruined because of it. And then he has to go on to a redemption arc. But yeah, that fifth wave, I guess it was the fifth wave. That was so dark way back then. And now I'm looking at the indoctrination that the kids are going through, thinking that everything is transphobic. You're transphobic.
All right, so I'm about ready to wrap it up, but I think we should end it on a good note. So we've been pretty That's the best note. You ain't getting out of here alive. Sucker.
What's a positive? Right there. Give us some positives. Give us something to go out on, PK.
You're all gonna die.
I guess everybody go out and make a walking stick. Try to outdo PK's walking sticks.
There you go. I love that. Everyone go make stick.
If you're going to make one out of black bamboo, make sure you wipe off the powder, because it'll numb your hands.
Really? Black bamboo?
Yeah, you can find it out here. there's like a weird, it's like a mold that grows on it, and it's like a toxin. Not good. But aside from that, you could wipe it off pretty easily.
Trippy.
Yeah.
Crow 777 is like a bamboo expert. He can talk bamboo for like hours and hours on end. That's pretty cool.
I like Crow. He's a cool guy.
Yeah. Well, okay, let me say this. Something I learned, I think that Leo Strauss was telling everybody about anagrams. He has one of his little nuggets of wisdom that he paid forward was to encourage people to not get caught up in all the progressive believing that everything is improving and that we're always going to the beneficial unconditionally, and not to take in more information and think that that is progress. He told people to actually to get more out of less information. And this is kind of the Straussian nugget to the ages coming forward. And the more I think back on that advice, and I'm like, how do you get more out of less? How do you get more out of less? And I'm like, well, the anagram vision. The anagram vision is, I call it boogie boarding in the pleroma. And, every word has many anagrams in it. And it's on you to decide the value of all the different anagrams in every word and to pick off the top, the ones with the highest relevance, the highest, functional truth frequency. I think Leo Strauss was telling everybody to learn your anagrams. So that's my tip for the future. And by the way, everybody, my next video is 369th video. So I got something cooking on that. It's going to be a while. Let me say that. It's going to be a while before I hit the 369. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that because I got some new merch I've been stewing on, and it's been a long haul. But yeah, keep your eyes out on that.
Well, you better get going with that 369 because that sounds like it's going to be holding us up from being able to do another live stream.
Yeah. And you said you were going to I think you were going to do one before this one even, and you didn't do one, right?
Yeah, because I couldn't hold back because we got to do a live stream. So
we gotta.
It's all good.
PK, do you have a positive before I throw a positive in there before we let these fine people
not
leave?
Not necessarily positive. I was going to throw in a question. Why do we say that I feel like ... when we're actually talking about how something that we think? Mm-hmm. And why do we say I think when we're actually talking about something or about how we feel? And I think it's interesting to think about how
feel it's
in
interesting
English language we use the word feel and the word think almost interchangeably. Really, they're synonymous. Whenever you listen to people talk, they'll say, I feel like and they'll go on to describe really or talk about what they think.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is embedded in our language this synonymous relationship with the words feeling and thinking. And then I think it would be a fun exercise to find out what within you arises first. Is it the thought that produces the feeling, or is it the feeling that then produces the thought?
Oh, I like that. And I think that actually maps on really well to a lot of the stuff going on right now with like this Ahrimanic current. And this is something even Shinobi, and I'll bring him up because he mentioned it to me, and it made a lot of sense that there's an inversion of what the Ahrimanic actually is. Ahriman is like from the air. So it's of the mind. It's taking over the mind, but a lot of people think that's a Luciferic thing. So they don't correlate it with Ahriman.
Yeah.
And then the feeling thing would be more of like a water. It'd be more of a feminine. So if you let Lucifer be the air and then you're thinking Ahriman is something different that's going to be taking over like a feeling aspect, you're kind of letting it invert the feminine. You're letting it invert your intuition. You're letting it invert multiple things because your mind and your feelings are going to be inverted. And I think being particular in your language is important, because if we keep saying we feel certain things that we're just thinking, that's going
Which
to
we
manifest.
do all the
We say
time.
all the time.
Maybe every freaking day. Really,
That's-
like
that's-
it's that bad.
Yeah, that's going to create this exact harmonic nightmare that we want to avoid.
Yeah.
So I think just be particular, and like PK was saying, really think about that. Think about what you feel versus what you think,
right.
because they're
feel,
different things.
Yeah, and feel about what you think, and both ways. Like when somebody
Yeah.
says a statement, when somebody posits their thoughts, you would ask them, "Well, how do you feel about your thoughts?" or vice versa.
How do you feel about that? When you're asking them, what do you think about that?
Yeah, because all of these deceptions that are working on our mind and the reactions we have to things. We don't know how much our feelings are actually creating the world we see around us, and if we allow our mind to be consumed with this constant negativity, and then our words reflect that negativity in a way that's not healthy for us or the people around us, we're not going to avoid what's coming.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So let's try to just be better about that, because we could probably change the whole entire future if we really wanted to and focus on that.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. That's something that has enriched me in my project around the Enneagram.
I love losing sound at the last moment.
Uh-oh.
I
Check.
hear you.
Am I good?
It's you. It's you. It's Chris. You're good, Gabe.
Okay. Oh, his camera's skipping too. Okay.
God
I'll just say this real quick. When I hear about vices around the Enneagram, they stand out more obvious. They're easier to see. It's the first thing I learned. When I learned about the Enneagram, I learned about the negative aspects first. Oh, we lost him again. He was almost back. The negative aspects of vices, they stand out more easily. They make up the pandemonium. Am I good? You hear me now?
Yeah, I don't know. Of course, that happens like once it's show with us for me.
Right on. So what I see more easily is the vice in the world. And I think when people look into the Enneagram, they kind of recoil because the vices, they're stigmatized. So I choose not to speak about the vice. I choose to speak about it through the virtue, through the corresponding virtue. And I think that's just keeping the glass half full, maybe overflowing, in fact, when I address what I have discovered in the Enneagram. And that's just something I reflect back on your comment. To keep it positive, because
I like that.
Yeah, because the vice is just cheap. It's cheap. It's low risk. The virtue, that's the real treasure and the reward. So
I'm gonna challenge Howard here to something. He's talking about, stop thinking, just feel. And Howard, I would challenge you, or anyone here, it's good exercise. Can you think and produce a feeling? Try to do it that way. If you're putting these feelings on a pedestal, and thoughts are artificial, can you think into a feeling,
Or think before you feel?
Think and then control that whatever feel you go into.
Because a lot of times, if you really think about a situation, you'll realize that there's nothing you should be physically or reacting to with, and emotionally at least, with feelings, because it doesn't affect you, and it's not even real half the time.
Right. It's like you could think yourself out of a feeling away as well.
Man, that's making me think about reading music. When I don't know how to read music. So when I see music laid out, or even the words of the song underneath, I'm just intellectualizing symbols. But George, our buddy George, when he looks at that paper, he has a visceral, he's in touch with the organ, the tool that translates the symbols that I'm intellectual on. And so when he sees the same thing I'm looking at, he might actually have a emotional yeah, a place where that belongs, you know.
But think
Just
about the occult symbolism now that anyone who's in the truther sort of conspiracy realm, if they see a certain symbol from an occult group, they have an immediate reaction to it,
Yes,
which isn't great, because that gives that group control then over that person's
right,
emotions.
right. Man, you know what?
I like it. I
that
wonder,
makes me
did he
think
do it on purpose? But I feel like the nature of feeling, I'm sure he did it on purpose. I see you out there, Howard. See this comment? But I feel like the nature of feeling is deeper.
but I believe it. Yes. I think belief is in the realm of feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like how you were going on about that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
Very good.
fellas. 2 hours and 45 minutes. This is a long one tonight.
Been a fun one.
It's been a while,
So,
right?
so Gabe, you owe us a video.
Okay.
Yeah, 369, man.
369.
Just don't quote Tesla as saying that, because apparently he didn't say that. So remember that when you make your video. It's a fake Tesla
For
quote.
joining everybody. Big love and respect.
All right, y'all.
Yeah, thank you for having me,
Thanks,
brother.
everyone,
Thank you for having
coming.
us.
Good to see everyone. Thank you, Gabe.
Much
Good
love,
seeing you,
y'all.
Chris. All right, y'all. Wait.